Indeed. Honorable, as we are talking about 2025, we are, almost done with by the way, compliments of the season.
Oh, no, thank you.
Indeed. And let's just talk about how 2025 has treated the Zambian people. Start with international, or maybe international cooperation or international, deals.
Exactly.
Have the deals that have been signed this year,
yeah.
Really developmental when it comes to the Zambian people?
Exactly, yeah. Thank you very much. And I think, like you said, when we look at the events relating to this country, we're talking at government level. The government operates at different levels.
Indeed.
First and foremost, we have international relations, which basically what is our foreign policy as a country.
Yeah.
Then, we have come back home, we have local activities, the economy, what is the social developments in our country, which includes sports and many other issues. Then, of course, we look at, the political side of things, which is governance, the running of the country, and such other things as, judiciary in relation to the parliament and the executive relationship. Yeah, so internationally this year, we saw a shift in Zambian foreign policy. For instance, the opening up of the Israeli embassy. You remember that far back, Dr. Kaunda, they closed that embassy because of, our, alignment, to countries that so it's the issue of Palestine. Yeah, so that is now the UPND government, as they formed government, it took a complete turnaround of foreign policy, how Zambia interact with other countries. For instance, they aligned so much with Western countries. They went to the US, they went to the British, the European, and other European countries. If you've noticed, one of our key partners has been China, and it's unfortunate they realized at the last minute that, the president actually took an official trip 4 years later, China, and I think that did not, it was clear. Because if you look at from President Kaunda, maybe we skipped Chiluba, but from Mwanawasa and all these other presidents, they had a very strong relationship with China, and we saw a number of things in terms of cooperation with Chinese, and historically, things like Tazara and several other developments. The Chinese were with the Russians and so on. Yeah, so this year, when I noticed that, we're opening the Israeli amidst, the serious dispute, I think the serious fighting, people died there. That sends a message out of the country. And that is very important. So we do not need as a country, to shift too much in our foreign policy. But more importantly, I think Zambia also coming back home to at the regional level, at SADC region level. If you go to South Africa, Botswana, even Zimbabwe, you realize that even the media talks about SADC affairs. We do not know. Our politics is just internal. We need to take a more active role in SADC. The reason is very simple. The entire SADC country, to a large extent, depended on Zambia for this country to be liberated from, the colonial masters as well as the apartheid. You will realize that we hosted, the Zimbabweans, we hosted the South Africans, we hosted the Namibians, we hosted the Mozambicans and the Angolans, among other nationals that were fighting for freedom in their countries. That was the policy under the independence. It's very important that our government takes that route because, now that SADC is free, so to speak, it's high time we see how much do we trade with Namibia. What is it that we can say? Can government negotiate with Namibia or other SADC countries instead of going to Europe or instead of going to America? Remember, I just noted you're talking about the IMF, and praising Zambia and so on. I think those are questions we should ask ourselves today. Samora Machel did indicate that when the Western, meaning the IMF, the Bretton Woods institutions, and many other institutions, start praising you should be worried yourself. The point of betrayal starts with the Europeans praising you, and you accept it. We shouldn't accept that. For me, just maybe to underscore that point, recently, the Americans government said they would give us 1.5 billion. The media reported 2 billion. On the condition that we agree on mining rights with American companies.
Indeed.
Honestly, are we not waking up? I was just reading about Botswana also. Botswana government, the IMF has told the Botswana government that if you get a higher stake in your diamond mines, it's De Beers, because that's what they want to do, then we withhold funding. But look, is it not better not to depend on foreigners to fund you, but to get your own resources? So I think these are the issues that we need to debate. As a country, we have resources, we are so rich. What are the benchmarks we have created for ourselves before any person comes? Because right now, these so-called foreign investors, they've given Zambia and other African countries an impression that when they come in, they will promise 2 billion, 500 million investment, jobs and all these things. All that is to a doing us. What actually happens is that when they come, they'll just extract all the resources and they leave. And that's the problem we've had. I heard someone talk about being against the 3 million metric tons that UPND government.
Indeed.
So that 3 million metric tons is nothing. And we should oppose it. Because the 300 million metric tons is not for Zambia, it's for these private companies. We can talk about increasing mining, the tonnage of copper or any other mineral, if we have control or if we have a stake in those mines. So as a country, we need to come up with a foreign policy whereby before any foreign company or country comes in, we give them our terms. We allow you to mine, but 50% of our resources are ours. And that's how it's supposed to be. Unlike, I think we've been very weak. No wonder, our economy is not picking up, and the social sector is not receiving anything. So the IMF, if you deal with them, they will tell you your economy is doing well, your fiscal discipline is high, and you're doing well, your inflation rate and so this. And that's why you see a finance minister will be, so excited, because there's too much belief that what the IMF said, what the World Bank gives you, that's the correct position. No, that is not the correct position. It's the people that vote what they say, which matters. Yeah. So I think that in terms of foreign relations, of course, with DRC, now there was a peace accord, because we are affected between the M23 and the Kedi government. I think that was a positive move. We are hoping that that agreement can stay and create stability in the Great Lakes region, which in turn will make Zambia a partner in trade with DRC.
One other issue, Honorable, where we saw President Hakainde Hichilema attending the inaugural ceremony for the Tanzanian elected president, it actually had a lot of backlash, where we saw people died over there, and we see the Zambian president actually being invited and heading over to a ceremony that was deemed to be something that was so it was called names by even SADC itself. What is your comment on that? How did that really affect Zambia in foreign relations? Absolutely,
yeah. You see, everything that happens in a country is known internationally, because we are not islands. The fact that we're talking about foreign policy and maybe our controversy, we're not saying that as a country we remain. Yes, the movements of the president are quite symbolic. Like I said earlier on, the president did not travel to China immediately. The fact that he was traveling to the UK, the US, and so on, and talking too much about those countries, it sends a message out there. In the same vein, the president going to a country, to officiate or to be present at the inaugural ceremony after, mad elections, it gives us, a very wrong impression. For me, it appears as if there was a level of, misunderstanding on the part of the president or the people that actually advise him internationally. You see, clearly, Tanzania, the people protested. There were a lot of undemocratic tendencies. The main opposition leader was jailed and he was not on the ballot. There were small political parties here and there, yes. And, many people did not vote. The fact that people rose, people died in numbers, actually. We are not even established the actual number of people who died. Then you go and associate yourself with that. That was a slap on the Zambian diplomacy. For me, what should have happened, before I say that, actually, Tanzania invited a number of countries for that inauguration ceremony. obviously the East African community, Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya, all these other countries, the SADC countries, all of them refused. Because clearly we were going to authenticate, or they were going to authenticate, and what the president did, it created acrimony between the Zambian people and the Tanzanian public. You will realize that there's a lot of Zambian traders, small-time traders, who went to Tanzania and back, and I think that didn't go well. And most people will tell you that the president should have not gone there. If he so much wanted, he would have sent a representative like others. Because if, as head of state, you go and even the venue where this, some military base or some military place, that clearly shows that, you see, there was something wrong with that. And we shouldn't as a country, because historically, we are peacemakers as a country. Like I said, in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s, early 80s, we played a critical role to pacify and democratize the SADC region and many other countries. I was just talking about Palestine and, other countries, Cuba and so on. As a country, we have that history. We cannot make decisions carelessly. So, in my view, that was a very careless move. Yeah.
Now, Honorable, many argue that the president had to attend, of course, to keep the bilateral relationship that we have in terms of business, because most of the traders, as you have mentioned, definitely use the corridor that side to actually at least to even just keep their businesses running. And maybe not the president not going there would have jeopardized, the business relationships that we have with Tanzania. Don't you think that's a good thing for him to actually go there and keep those relations? You
see, Tanzania has got closer economic and political ties with the East African community. That is one thing we as Zambians should understand of the Zambian government. We need to be students of history or political science, really, or African politics. Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda, they are the first to form the East Africa. Now there's Rwanda, Burundi, and all these countries. Those cooperate more economically than they cooperate with any other country within the SADC region. Zambia is very far from that. And our cooperation is very limited. I'm talking about, Tanzania food, deficits going, they sell more on the other side. With Zambia, when we talk about businessmen, we're talking about, our micro business people. You have a shop here selling clothes and all these things. You go to Kariakoo and get some stuff and sell here. Yeah, but on the large scale, his going there did not add value. In any case, it did take away the value as a country. Like I said, you need to weigh between, if that elections was a normal one, like the previous one, then you see there would have not been issues. He's attended several other, inaugurations, and there's not been any issues. But where the election has been mad, we cannot authenticate it, even show that desperation, because at the sake of, friendship or whatever. But you know what that shows? It shows that our president condones what happened in Tanzania to a large degree. You've seen, we'll be discussing later, how we've fared politically. The UPND has been, just like in Tanzania, has been fighting the PF from day one in 2021 to date. No wonder there's not much progress to talk about. Yeah, so that was a serious. So now the impression is like, he fortifies the thinking that, well, this is what he thinks. Yeah, so for me, a country is a country. We need to be very serious and careful when we make decisions and when we take certain steps. Yeah.
Indeed. Well, a lot can be said and done, Honorable. We can just also talk about the issue of, anti-corruption, or corruption in Zambia for the year 2025. And
absolutely.
Just dating back as well, since the UPND actually came into power,
exactly.
We see that many other times that, audits are made, results are held, and the Zambian people don't really know what next to do. How can you really describe the fight against corruption under the UPND and 2025?
You see, the UPND has been a very good. They've been very good, in misleading the country. in this so-called fight against corruption, just like many other things. Firstly, I'll tell you, when the UPND came in office, they started with one corrupt act, which was repeated several times. They went, you see, you can be an accountant in the ministry and perhaps misappropriate some money. But they went to use a legal route, which is illegal. There were consent judgments that were being signed between UPND cadres, so someone and the Attorney General. And this is a problem that I had, appointing an Attorney General who's a member of the National Executive Committee of UPND. So a UPND member is posing as Attorney General. Then another member comes, sues the Attorney General. So basically they sue themselves. And before trial, they agree on an amount of money to be compensated. So someone will say, I was appointed the gun. Other person, I was jailed for 2 days. I need 500,000. Some people in Livingstone, what is the chief, the wife, and so on. Some chief and the spouse and so on come up. Okay, these were also jailed without going through trial. But the normal process in court, you go through trial and the judge is able to make a sentence. But there's also a shortcut where you can agree. But there were too many consent judgments, and a lot of money was siphoned from the treasury. 2 million, 2.4, 4 million, 500,000, and all this. When you put that money cumulative, that was a lot of money. Now, that act was in itself very corrupt. If properly investigated, I think a lot of people will go to jail. Yeah, that is one thing. Secondly, this year we saw the issue of, medicines being lost, and I think that led to the U.S. also withholding its funding, $50 million funding to them. Nothing has happened. We saw, further to that, ministers were actually listed, and the Anti-Corruption Commission was saying they can't do it until they are cleared by the president. And those names were withheld. And this is a problem of the president also controlling the anti-corruption and all these law enforcement agencies. So we have a lot of corrupt acts in various circles. If you go to Financial Intelligence Center, there are huge figures leaving this country, and you see there's no amount of theft. I was just talking about mining companies joining hands with people in this country, in government. They are siphoning to $2.5 billion. You can see it. 15 billion kwacha. All these figures. Okay? So, all these things, if we had a serious government fighting corruption, and I keep on saying that I was privileged to be alive or to be aware during Manawasa's reign. Manawasa did not jail people who are not in government first. He started with his own ministers. He cleansed his house. Now, the UPND, the house is rotting with corruption and smelling with that corruption. And then they're sending people here, there. They found him with a special and all these things. We are not saying that he shouldn't do that, but you see, what constitutes corruption fight? You don't look at political parties. You don't look at faces. You don't look at friends and non-friends. No. The law is the same. The law applies, that's why they say the law is blind. What it means that as long as you break the law, you should be there. We can extend that further to even criminal activities. UPND cadres have been committing criminal activities at will, and they are set free. Any other person, for instance, Munia has been, he completed his term. I don't know why they're keeping him. He completed his term. Sorry, he complained about 2 ministers having collected bribes on a public road. Now, that is an issue of public interest. He's jailed for that, but another person just insults this former president, that kind of thing. So you see that the fight against corruption, the fight, the way criminal justice is targeted, and the clear is to diminish political competitors and to make sure that we don't have competition. Yeah.
All right. The number is on your screen. The number is 0770-813728. Be part of the conversation, or even comment on Facebook. It is Millennium TV Zambia, where you're watching us from and what is happening in your area. Be part of the program this afternoon as I sit down with Honorable Emmanuel Tembo to just talk about the happenings of 2025, and of course, just to review the year, how it has been under the leadership of the UPND. I think we'll be cruising with, looking at how, we just come down to the political landscape or the political affairs. We do know that Parliament has, has been on this year, and a lot of bills have been passed in Parliament this year. Just to get your comment, how has Parliament performed in 2025 alone?
Absolutely. David, and viewers, just allow me just to slot in this 2025 event. Of course, a sad moment. We lost the 6th Republican president. Whilst it's normal to lose any human being, including heads of states, but I think as a country, 2025 remains a year, which is dark. Not because, I know we lost President Chiluba, we lost President Sata, we lost President Mwanawasa, Rupia Banda, and now we didn't have issues. Now, the fight that existed when President Lungu was living with continued even in this day. As we speak today, we have not buried that. And I think we are going to 2026. And soon, in June, it will be a year. When matters are in court, you can't determine when they'll end. I just want to outline the fact that the government of the day is a parent. This issue, it's not about who wins. I think for a bigger person, if the family wants to do what they want, it's not late for them to withdraw the case. The way they've mishandled that issue to the extent that it has broken this country. It may look as if it's dying, but it's very fresh. And it's unfortunate that, we've come this far and life has continued as if not. Now, quickly, I think it's important to look at legislative work, what has been going on, particularly this year. Maybe just to start with, there are a number of bills, yes, but maybe let me single out. There was a Lands and Deeds Act, Bill number 13, which was, that I don't know who sat down to propose. There are certain things we shouldn't propose because that bill sought to actually take powers from courts to nullify or to cancel the certificate or to give them to an individual who's basically an appointee. Now, what that was going to do was going to interfere with the right to own property. The courts have the reserve, to cancel that certificate of title to land, and that was going to go. We thank God with what was done, that was withdrawn or it was deferred. But they also came together, that was in June, with Bill 7, which has now become law. When that bill was introduced in Parliament, there was a lot of resistance from various stakeholders. One of the issues was that there was no consultation. Now, I've listened to UPND members and ministers and other sympathizers say that, no, Parliament, pursuant to the Constitution, has legislative power. It's true, but if you read Article 61, which I'll elucidate further, it says that legislative authority comes from the people. Okay? So you need to balance up. So when the law says Parliament must legislate, if you give roles to children at home, your job is to wash a car, you're gardening, and you wash the house, you're cooking. Does not mean that the child should not consult the parent. Now, the parent of every government, the parent of this UPND government is the Zambian people. Now, when it comes to fundamental law, which is the Constitution, and every student of constitutionalism and the Constitution will actually tell you that you cannot divorce people from constitution-making process. Everywhere in the world, even when amendments come to wherever it is, they start with the people. That is how the process is. It may not be indicated in the Constitution because you see we are not going to have a 1,000-page Constitution. But that is understanding. That's why we have Attorney General, we have lawyers in government, an army of other lawyers in the Attorney General's chambers. Is because they already know this. There are certain practices, they may not need to be written. Now, with this current Constitution, the last amendment, people said no, and it was two people, Munir Zulu and another, like we said, Gerald, but before, they challenged that process. And the Constitutional Court, which is the only court which is mandated with constitutional matters, actually ruled that that process was wrong. It was against the spirit of the Constitution in Article 1. Article 1 says anything which is against the Constitution is a nullity. Against Article 7 and 8, 8 and 9, which talks about national values and principles and national values of this country, morals. It means that Bill 7 was against that. So when they ruled like that, clearly that was nullified. But what the government did through the Minister of Justice was that they deferred. Deferred meaning they kept it in Parliament but on hold. What should have happened? They should have completely moved out. Then a few months later, that was October, they commenced a process of so-called consultation. That is not the kind of consultation. You can't consult the country in 1 month. Okay, anyway, even with that short period of that defective consultation, they did not consider that report. Neither did they consider the bill that was drafted. They went to resurrect a condemned bill and brought it to Parliament. And, to go further, they knew that was not going to go. But the UPND used hook and crook to pass that bill. We talked to our colleagues who we did not expect to vote. Of course, there are people like Chavinga. Please give me a comment, talk about Chavinga, the South African guy. People like Chavinga, Mandu, and they are the usual suspects who always go to UPND and they vote with him. And it's normal. I mean, Jesus out of 12, he had one. So we knew those, but there were other people. Those I personally talked to, because I took interest in, but how could this person vote with this? Others, okay, just voted, but there are those who were harassed, threatened with criminal activities and so that. But for me, this is not how you run a country. After it was passed, we saw the speaker dance, you see, and very long thing. It has never happened. Not only in this country, by the way. World over. There's no report of a speaker who takes side, was this side has won, and clearly, I mean, she couldn't hide it, because we all know she's very much UPND, but at least she could have hidden it. So, and that she broke the rules. She needs to be suspended for 30 days. But you see, if we had the law and order, that would have happened. So this has been the major thing that this Parliament, which has occurred. But unfortunately, and this is a position, and I agree with Lars and many other stakeholders, these amendments under Bill 7, they are actually illegal. They still stand illegal because the Constitution Court judgment in the Munia Zulu case is still binding. It has not been overturned. It binds everyone. And it doesn't matter whether you're president, whether you're attorney general, whether you're speaker, or it even binds the National Assembly as a whole. That's how court judgments can go in terms of effect.
Well, we can talk about government and opposition relation in Parliament in terms of debate. How's been the relationship between government and opposition?
So it's basically Parliament. We have members of the executive who are also members of Parliament, that is ministers. Then we have the backbenchers, maybe from the ruling party and the opposition. What the main role of Parliament is to provide checks and balances on the executive. But you see, human beings are prone to error. The thinking of one person is not enough. The thinking of one government cannot be enough. So you need Parliament to also think and challenge the thinking of government. Now, what has been happening is that, the level of whipping is such that UPND members will just follow whatever has been brought by the executive. And secondly, we have a problem of the speaker. You see, the speaker will allow any debate by the ruling party, no matter how they breach the rules and the decorum of the House, they allow it. And perhaps, we should enjoy it. But it should not allow the other side. I'll tell you, there are a number of times that people want to debate. But when she says that, the people indicating the debate are from the opposition. That will not. So the major issue of relationship, I think, lingers around the speaker. And I think that we should never sink that law in this country. I want to tell Zambians this. We should never go, because if you don't balance up the three wings of government, Parliament becomes, a stooge of the executive. Judiciary becomes a stooge of the executive. You can't have a country to talk about. You need to check on someone, like I explained earlier on. I think that has been the major problem this year. There's been a continuation from 2021 to date, and it's quite sad. Yeah.
Now, what does this mean now for the democracy of Zambia? Looking at how the parliament has actually been in such rumbles, what does it mean for Zambia's democracy?
Yeah. So basically, in addition to that, you see, parliament, after being controlled by the executive, they also imposed what they call a leader of opposition. Imagine the constitution indicates that the opposition members will choose their own leader of opposition. The executive, through the speaker, is the one choosing. Even when they are written to, they choose who to agree with, because this person agrees. Now, at the end of the day, like you put it, and I want to remind Zambians, in 1991, Kaunda was removed because people wanted to introduce multi-party democracy. Chiluba might have had all these other presidents, but you see, they allowed democracy to flourish. Under the UPND, the last 4 years has been the death of democracy, including this Bill 7. This was just an assault on our democracy. And indeed, I'm one of those saddened that we've come this far. And it's also against even the existence of the same UPND. Because when you don't have a democratic process, no one will give you ideas. When you make mistakes, you just make mistakes. The president this year, he has had two SONA or State of the Nation address. One of the issues he keeps on talking about is power deficit. They sold power, they did all these things, they overused the water allocation level because, at the Zimbabwe or the Zambezi River Authority, ZRI, actually allocates water between Zambia and Zimbabwe. And our colleagues in Zimbabwe didn't have the highest they could go in terms of, load shedding was 2-3 hours. Us, it's days. Now that next year, we have 6 months before we get into election time. I hear that there's even a connection fee for electricity for 300 from 5,000. You see, I'm going to suggest to, David and to Zambians, why don't we have elections every year? Every year or every month anyway. Because we are going to have good things coming. Okay? Fuel, they try to bring it back. So we are going to see these things as we get, but immediately after elections, it will be pain after pain. It will be suffering after suffering. So when you have a strong opposition, they would bring out issues and guide you, say that, okay, look, don't go too much into this issue. Just the other year, we sowed our maize, then we had the drought. If we had listened to the opposition, so why kill the opposition, which gives you good ideas? Okay, so that is what the parliament is one such platform that the government must learn from. Because they ask questions, their ministerial statement, we query them and all this. That democracy must be allowed. Yeah.
Now, Honorable, should we really blame the Zambians for actually, loving the good things that are being given to them, prior to the elections? Should we really blame the Zambians? Because of course they want, if we're approaching elections, good things that are being done, and of course that prompts them to vote, a certain government back in government.
Yeah.
What do you suggest should be done, in terms of that?
And by the way, the fact that these things are coming, like electricity and perhaps load shedding issues, the cost of connection and load shedding being now manipulated. You see, the Zambians are very clever. This does not automatically translate in the fact that the UPND win. Okay, of course that's what they think. And obviously they can't win. What happens, there's too much social media now. There's too much communication interpersonal around the country and around the world. You cannot cheat people. These things you are doing, they should have been done earlier. And I can tell you, they will not have any impact. Because it's so clear. But if I was not going to my constituents, not being the people, addressing problems, the last 4 years, this happens even at parliamentary level. There are people just shun and they're having all this time, and they come at last minute, spend a lot of money and all this and so on. People will be clapping as if, but before you know it, inside, when they make a decision. We've been there, the MMD have been there. There were roads that were done, very nice roads, in the election year. In Mtendere, elsewhere, so on. A hospital within a short period done. Zambians had already made a decision. You know, right now, Zambians are asking us, can you give us direction as PF? And very soon, we're going to give direction in terms of who you are going to be the flag carrier, the person you're going to rally with, and which direction, and all the modalities, everything is in place. And we'll make sure that this is happening. So, essentially, you know, I don't think that these last-minute efforts will help us. I mean, even in exams, you are grade 12. From grade 10 to 12, you have not been studying. A week before exams or a month before you start, how can you pass? Even the little, you will get confused in the exam room. Yeah. So this is what the UPND is doing.
Yeah. Indeed. We talk about the economic management and the high cost of living.
Yeah.
Recently, we know that 2025 has been one of those years that the cost of living has really increased.
Yeah.
What do you think would have been done, to just really ease the cost of living, for a lot of citizens in Zambia?
Yeah. First, economically as a country, actually, we've been doing poorly. We borrowed twice, and in fact, let me also mention that this year in Parliament, we've also passed the budget 2026 to the tune of 172 billion kwacha, which translates to some dollars. Out of that money, there's $4 billion that is earmarked for borrowing. Okay? Now, the UPND has been paying as one of the achievements, honestly. And, I don't want to aspire to be president, but many people are aspiring to be president for a simple reason. You know why? Because I think when you're president, you're not doing things that the president should do. Even those who are not supposed to be president, they will aspire to be president. Now, debt restructuring. Now debt restructuring, even MPs and they all are talking about it. It should never even be mentioned if at all you have done that. If you talk about using natural resources from Zambia and pay. Now, the economy is getting down and down whilst there's talk of bringing in investment from America, cobalt metals, Umba 500 million, this and that, Kansanshi, First Quantum Minerals. Now, all these people they're talking about, these mining companies, they're just extracting our copper, our gold, our uranium, our metals, and all these riches out of the country. And we remain with problems. The biggest problem of the UPND, first and foremost, if you remember, when they came in, I don't know whether it was a payback, but they removed, basically they removed the mineral royalty tax. In reality, a lot of money was lost. Per year, we lost something like 500 to even $1 billion income to the country. And the IMF, which told them to do that, actually said we'll give you $1 billion, 1.3 billion in terms of concessional loans. Now, how do you leave your own money and start borrowing? Okay, and with a lot of conditions. This is what has brought us to where we are today. The UPND government should not listen to multinational corporations. They should not listen to foreign investors. They should listen to Zambians. Right now, because of elections again, minimum is a little bit lower, maybe 285 somewhere there. This is because of elections. Now, the promise of 50 kwacha bag of millimillion, Zambians have not forgotten. Okay? And now, the cost of survival for a family of 5, 6 is about 12,400. Okay? A decent person to live, survive, the lowest, that is the minimum. We're not talking about the maximum. So these people getting 1,500 as guards, maids, and cleaners around there, how are they surviving? So these are the problems that we have. And this load shedding is the one that killed, we have multiple people surviving on micro businesses, such as, a barber shop, a hair salon, a welding garage, a guy that does brick making, all these. So the cost of these things with load shedding went up. And you see, they affected every other thing. The fuel, which keeps on oscillating every month, the cost of transport has remained all-time high. So what should happen is this. A government, you know, like the way any human being is, if you are employed, there's a salary you get. Even a country has a salary. What is the salary of a country? I want to simplify things. The salary of a country is the minerals that God has given us. It's the resources. This country has got gas, natural gas, has got oil, it has uranium, it has all these sugilite, manganese, gold, cobalt. I can mention all of them just so we can't talk about emeralds alone. Emeralds alone can pay our debt. Now, you need to make a bold decision as a leader. With all these resources, why are we suffering? You know, so and instead of getting stake in this or taxing the people that are running this, what you are doing is reducing tax and increasing tax. Do you know that even this year, we have increased mobile phone transaction tax, which we objected. They said, no, it's only 8 MB per transaction. But we knew, once we allow this law, they'll keep on increasing it. Okay. Why are you taxing Zambians instead of taxing First Quantum Minerals? This, Mopani mine was sold, we don't know what is happening and nothing's happening, was given away 51 without parliament approval. That is an issue. I know it was, the Concord just made a ruling, but 3 out of 7, the other 3 said that sale was illegal. And I agree with the minority judgment. The sale of Mopani was quite illegal. If you look at KCM, Vendetta, they're just playing with our asset. So all these issues, whilst there's too much talk about reported achievements, but there are a lot of problems that we have economically. And unfortunately, when the economy is not doing well, it translates into social breakdown. Marriages start breaking down, children are on the street, families are weakened, and all these things. The so-called free education, if you can allow me, there's no such thing as free education when a child can't eat. There is no free education because if you can't, when buying a book is prohibitive. Okay? So the government says, no, we've removed all the fees. But what about the cost of a book? Why haven't you removed it? What about the cost of uniform? Today, a brand new shoe, the cheapest you get from Bata, will be about 400. Okay? Even Salaula now, they are just below new shoes because Salaula has got, so the price is more or less the same. So, what we have right now, we need this government to realize that they can only get resources. When you get resources from our mineral resources, we are going to have a situation where we finance free education from preschool to university. Now, and let me define free education, by the way, because the UPND definition, that is not free education. Free education, I came on it towards the last end of Dr. Kaunda. When you go to school, the books will be there, the uniform will be there. The food will be there, at least a drink and a bun, but even some porridge and that kind of thing. There was no, and children were flocking into schools. The welfare system, so that is what we call free education. And that can only come if you are getting the right value of your mineral resources. And I think that is the most important.
Indeed, still talking about high cost of living, we do know that the defense mechanism that the UPND government will talk about is the social cash transfer, and maybe the farmer support programs that 2025 that people have participated in 2025. How do you speak to the social cash transfer and the farmer support programs that of 2025?
Yeah, so the social cash transfer, when someone is paid that amount 400. They can only manage to buy 1 bag of millimere, and that's it. Okay, so previously, social cash transfer was about 200, 300. At that time, they would buy a bag of millimere, two bags of millimere, and other requisites at home. Right now, with the rising costs of issues, social cash transfer is a drop in the ocean. Now, social cash transfer is meant for people who are vulnerable. Old people, people who are disabled and they can't do work, to that level. Children or households that has children who are orphaned, those are the people that qualify. Now, if you give them 400 per month, you cannot use that as a defense to deal with it as an intervention against the biting cost of living. Yeah, if they are giving 1,000, for instance, which is also not enough. So 400 is nothing, it's a drop in the ocean, but even 1,000 is nothing. But that would at least cushion them. Okay? In Europe, people are not employed. These people are getting our resources here. It's corporate that is paying them. A child, you graduate, you are not employed. There are what is known as unemployment benefits. $2,000. $2,000 is actually 50,000 kwacha per month. People get paid that kind of money. Now here, you give people peanuts. When you say we are intervening, no, that cannot be an intervention. Then we talked about FISIP. FISIP, you've seen that people have been sharing, feed, sharing fertilizer and all. This is still going on. That system is not what we can rely on. And you see, we thank God last year we had about 2.8 million harvest. And it's out of the sweat of the people on their own. Now, what has happened also, people have done that. Instead of buying and paying them, the government actually borrowed or got the maize from the farmers on Kongole on credit, and we don't know what they've done with it, and they have not paid the farmers. Meanwhile, we are now, already in December and going to January, another farming season. The farmer gets paid once. Where is the money for, to plow back into the new farming season? Where is the money to pay school fees for their children? And many other things. So you can see these are the failures that we're saying that this government, they went and borrowed a bit of money here and there, but, that did not suffice. We still have long queues, people sleeping outside. And by the time they get their money, they'll just be paying Congolos, and the value and the cost of transport to go and check for their own money actually will ensure that they get the value they'll get is half of what they should have gotten. This government promised that once we get, within a week, we get paid. Yeah. But people are being paid small installments and all these things.
So maybe we can just talk about the process, because we do see Chief Government spokesperson saying that it's actually the bank process that is delaying the entire issue. How do you make of this, feedback or other response coming from the Chief Government spokesperson that it is actually the bank that is delaying, and not government?
So you see, our colleagues in the UPND, the UPND is not sincere with what it says. You see, when you're dealing with public affairs, tell people the truth. The truth can be painful, but it's good to tell people the truth. Now, I'll tell you, in Bill 7, there was an increment of seats, constituencies delimitation to 71. These seats, we were not told where they are. The executive was saying the person who knows the seats is the Electoral Commission of Zambia. The Electoral Commission of Zambia was saying it's the government, the executive. Now, the same thing is happening now with FISIP. In payment of farmers. They are saying the problem is with the bank. And the bank, you say, how possible is it? If your bank has the money, you would have paid. The banks have not received that money. And it's not true. So if you ask the banks, they'll say the government hasn't sorted out its own. That is what is happening. So in short, there is no money. Yeah, there's no money for the farmers. It's when it comes, a little bit is paid there and so on. What we need is immediately, whatever you have received, pay in full. It will encourage people to farm more and to bring to FRA. Right now, in terms of confidence, the people have actually, lost confidence in the FRA. Yeah, this is the first time that being paid post the farming season. Yeah.
Indeed. You can be part of the program by commenting on Facebook. It is Millennium TV Zambia. Be part of the conversation. You can just also call us up. The number is 0770-813728. Honorable, there's actually quite a number of issues we can still talk about. As we are still talking about maybe the high cost of living, we can also fuse in maybe, just the political stability, of course, while we do see, the UPND government actually, trying to, oppress maybe the opposition, right? In terms of the queries that you always have, you're trying to give the, checks and balances, and they actually say that the opposition has, no voice to actually tell us, or no solutions, that the opposition is not really providing solutions. Is it the mandate of the opposition to really, provide solution for the government? Yeah,
okay. So, you see, the opposition providing checks and balances. They give an alternative view. For instance, I've given an example of this. When this UPND government came in, they started selling power. We objected, and this is on record. I think Honorable Brian Munduwe raised this issue, and I remember it very well. And we debated heavily in Parliament. They didn't listen. The maize issue, again, we refused that they shouldn't sell that maize. But you know what ended up happening? We sold the maize, and we bought the same maize 3 times the price. Imagine. What kind of mistake? So, the UPND misunderstands opposition politics. They have invested heavily in destroying the opposition. I agree. You know, they financed people to distract the PF. They manipulate leadership of the PF through the registrar of societies. And I want to thank Madam Muhende, who was the registrar. We refused to change the office bearers at the registrar of societies when Mao Samba went to change, until they brought in another person who has since changed to Mao Samba. And I don't know what else they're changing. Yeah, but you know, that lady stood her ground. And I want to, if she's listening, tell her that we'll remember you. Because what she did is a mark of patriotism. She looked at the law, and that's it. Now, our role as opposition, if you are a clever government, the opposition can build you. But if you don't listen, the opposition will shrink you. They attempt to oppress the opposition instead of listening to them. Because the only way you can kill the opposition is by listening and implementing the ideas. But the UPND doesn't want to listen, but all they want is to, you know, manipulate things. And the end result recently has been that, you know, there's more strength in opposition now. I'll tell you, out there, regardless of characters they bring in and so on, the PF is very strong on the ground. I've had an opportunity in the recent months to travel around the country. I said, if all this is happening, no, we're just waiting for the right moment. And I'm very confident. I'm very, very confident that the UPND will regret what they are doing, because obviously they expect that it will help them win the election, but the result will be actually a serious loss. And the loss will be worse than the loss Chakwera in Malawi suffered. In fact, in Malawi, it will look like that one is a hero compared as a loser there. He will lose as a hero than how President Hakainde is going. This manipulation of UNZA students and what I mean, UNZA students like my good friend, Minister of Information, I know everything that happens. And I've been with students' activism, even at regional level, SADC regional level. So when you manipulate those things, trade unions, and it's really sad that trade unions don't know their role anymore, you know, just supporting things and think that, no, it's a country we are dealing with. And I think that we need to play our role. This fortifies, you know, national character and the national economy. Yeah.
Yes, as we just wrap it up, among other issues, we do know that PF this year has, you know, gone through, you know, a lot of, you know, sagas here and there. Well, even now, people still ask questions as to how Chabinga, or Honorable Chabinga, you know, is managing to, I don't know if he's managing to shake, you know, PF, or, you know, him managing to also just, you know, file a court injunction, yeah, you know, to just actually, you know, shake things in PF. Can you just clarify to us, you know, or rather, a Zambian citizen who's confused right now, who's, you know, what really is happening in Patriotic Front?
Yeah, exactly. First, maybe you read the story in one of the newspapers that Chabinga and Mudolo, what were they agreeing that wants to hand over to a more sober? Now, you see, if Chabinga is president, why do you think about handing over to another person? Okay, so Chabinga, Mudolo, we don't know them. Yeah, we don't know them. Okay, that is first. Now, Chabinga is a creature of the UPND. Okay? He just came 2021, wanted to stand. Yes, they allowed him. He won on the PF. The PF as a country, I mean, the party lost at presidential level. And I think maybe I'd expected that if you be part of the ruling party, PF then, now he took a toll towards the ruling party. But if you look at his character, he's a kind of a person that, you know, of course, is good for political, be used as a political tool. Now, if he's confusing people, it's really unfortunate. Because Chabinga is alone. You can't even tell an MP that, hey, come here, do this. No. You can't tell any member or any structures. So the way it is, the UPND have created him, given him public media. If you notice when they were signing the so-called Bill 7, he was praised by the UPND. There is no PF member who can praise him. So in his role is a tool to be used to destroy the PF and to create that public perception as if they are divisions. They are not divisions. And the Electoral Commission of Zambia listens to him than the legitimate leadership. Because what has happened now is that the PF leadership, it was President Edgar Lungu, then Given Winda, and the rest of us, central members of government, and structures. Now, the PF as a party is very intact as we speak now. As a party, there's no confusion. The only thing is that the UPND has collected our registration certificate. And on that certificate, they're purporting Chawinga to be the leader as UPND. So it's the UPND. So for another Zambians who may not understand this, it's true, maybe they may be deceived. But the good thing that works on our side is that as they are doing these things, they neglected to run the economy. They neglected to build this economy and the country. So people are dissatisfied with the UPND. Also, the UPND thinks by bringing Chawinga, the confusion. And like I said earlier on, in the coming months, I think it will be clear how the UPND will lose power. It's really shocking. The UPND talked too much. Yesterday I was thinking, the UPND has been having, President Haka in particular, has been having a lot of meetings at KK Wing at the Mlongoshi Conference, which was brought by the PF. Okay? He's been moving along Great East Road, built by the PF. And the airport, built by the PF. If he goes to Ndola, another airport. He goes to Southern Province, another international, these are 3 international airports, not to talk about other things. They are grinding milling meal using commercial or industrial milling plants given to ZNS, built by the UPND, also by the PF. Now, can they think and ask themselves, what have they done? Kazungula Bridge, in Kalabo, is it Kalabo? There's another bridge there. Massive, biggest in the SADC region, or indeed maybe first or second in Africa. When they're passing there, don't they ask themselves, what have we done? Because honestly, this issue of CDF, the other day I had a discussion with my colleagues in the UPND. Look, construction of a 1-by-1 classroom, 1-by-2, ablution block. Yes, people use them. But look, we can't rate that as performance of a national government. No. A national government is about stadium, big stadium like what we've seen, universities, a full-fledged school with 10, 12 teacher houses, a hall and the classrooms done at once, then you can say that. Buying, I'm really taken aback. So, in discussing this, I'm saying, why does the UPND spend time seeing who to jail in the opposition? Well, some of the people are targeted, and on an assumption that once they are done, then the PF cannot be weakened because it's people, and it's within the hearts of the people. It's like someone, the Chawinga case. It's like someone who says, I own that car, and he has a white book, but he can't even get 5 meters closer, or even 50 meters closer to that car. He's scared. Chawinga, when he has his press briefing, he goes in a private room, hidden somewhere, scared. The PF secretariat is just there off Lumumba Road. He doesn't, in fact, by the way, he doesn't even know. But he will claim that he's PF president. So for me, of course, it dances the tune of the UPND. I saw some pictures where he was opening his mouth like this, laughing, greeting the president. I said, oh my God, everything has got time anyway. Yeah, and by the way, we've seen people get used, thrown away, survive. Some of us, we are so proud. I didn't vote for that Bill 7 because there are many things with it. It's an assault on democracy. So on, I'm very, very proud. I stand with the Zambian people. And I know God is the one who's going to reward me. By standing with the Zambian people, the sacrifice for the people. Some people have said, no, my family comes first. No. When when you choose public life, your family can never come first. It's the country which comes first. You must die for the country. And when I say die, I mean it. When it comes to death, between your country, choose the country, not... You know, Che Guevara was saying that there are people who feared death, but I see them, their graves every day. You know? So, for those of us who've taken up leadership role at country level, we need to look at the country first. We can't think so low to even openly say that, you know, I want, you know, my family comes first or my interest comes. No. I have personal interest myself. For many years, and you know, I thank God I studied leadership at the end. I've sacrificed. I even sacrificed my own education. My first degree in political science at the University of Zambia. I was expelled because I stood against the Zambian Constitution Amendment in 1996, which barred only one person. Okay? And I've continued. Yes, it was a trying moment. It was difficult. I suffered. But God resurrected me. You know? So, on the cross there, Jesus, when he died, he knew there's life after the cross. So, for us who have taken, you know, we shouldn't be like these characters being used and so on. We need to die for the country. We need to unite for the right reasons, not to unite for 3 pieces of silver. Yeah. So for me, really, I see, and I can tell you, the end of these betrayers, like this guy you're talking about, and at the end of the day, I don't think Zambians should even pay attention to that. Yeah.
Honorable, we might not have discussed it all, but I believe little by little, we have you have definitely analyzed or rather reviewed 2025 in your own opinion, and as of those that you also lead as well. I think we do come to the end of the program this afternoon. Do you want to give your closing remarks?
No, I think it's just to thank you, thank the station, thank the Zambian people, and just to assure Zambians really that this country will be great very soon. Yeah, it's happening in other countries like Burkina Faso. I was listening to the Namibian president talking about Namibian resources going to the Namibian people instead of the foreign investors. I think I'm like, so just to assure Zambians that we are, not everyone would let you down. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Honorable.
Thank you.